Asset allocation. We've been taught that is the great panacea. If you've got some money in the stock market, you got some money in the bond market. Folks, bonds are not a safety net. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards, and you have found yourself in the middle of a series on how much risk should we be willing to take in retirement. I'm answering a question that gets asked all the time. And in our previous segment, if you missed that, look it up. You can find us on YouTube, the Lord & Richards Show. You can also find us on Spotify and other podcasts. But if you missed that first segment, we talked about the critical need to have a great conversation around how much risk you are comfortable taking. Now, comfort is a relative term, right? But you and my team will have a conversation around this simple question. In a down market, in a falling market, where do you want to make sure you never breach? Minus 5%, minus 10%, minus 25%, whatever that is. At Lord & Richards, we're going to sit down with you and codify that number in print. Now, you can change it later, right? Because we know life changes, risk tolerance changes, but we're actually going to have a safety percentage, a percentage that you set and are comfortable with and that we get behind and guarantee. You say, well, how can you do that? No, I'm not just talking about fixed products like CDs and fixed annuities. No, I'm talking about even with your market investments, we're going to develop a comprehensive plan that includes a written risk management plan to guarantee you will not breach that percentage. You say, well, there's no perfection in life, Colin. What if you fail? What if what if I say I only want a minus 15 downside and you go to minus 20? Well, Lord & Richards is going to stop charging you fees, right? How often have you heard that? That's our safety pledge. Lord & Richards will not charge you if we don't keep that promise. And we won't charge you again until we get it right. So folks, this is something you're not hearing anywhere else. I know that because I've researched it. Nobody's willing to do this because they don't frankly have the tools or the guts to actually put their money where their mouth is. And you got a lot of people who say, oh, well, when you're winning, we're winning. Of course they are. Your portfolio is getting bigger, their fee percentage is getting bigger. But when you're losing, are they still winning? Of course they are. Not at Lord & Richards. We're going to stop charging our fees, right? So that's worth a conversation right there. But secondly, we've got to answer a question that I think is out there. A lot of people think, I can do this on my own, Colin. I don't need your safety percentage. I don't need your guarantee because I'll just diversify. And, I've studied this and I can diversify away risk. Well, the brightest minds in investing will tell you you can't do that, okay? Diversification is only possible at a micro level. You can diversify an individual company or a sector, right? You can go into another sector, but you can't diversify away market risk. You say, I disagree. Well, guess what? Every fiduciary has to take an exam and testify in that exam, if whether they believe it or not, that you cannot do that. Why? Because a rising tide raises all boats and a falling tide lowers them, right? You've seen the effect. And you can't take the whole market and diversify away the risk of the whole market. So I've seen people who are technically diversified. They're in this sector, that sector, large companies, small companies, in between companies, foreign, domestic, whatever. But when the whole thing goes to pot like it did in 2008, man, their 401k is now a 201k. Not exciting. You're like, I diversified. What happened? In 2008, 14 of 16 asset categories were down. Let me ask you, is it a question of if that's going to happen again? The Bible says the prudent man foresees the evil and is warned. Those of us who've been through that, I've walked clients through that. I had clients who didn't lose a dime of their money in 2008. How many advisors do you know who can say that? Well, that's because Lord & Richards will get behind you and put our money where our mouth is. We will not charge you if you breach your safety percentage. You say, well, I'm dollar cost averaging right into my 401k, so dollar cost averaging will protect me, right? No, it's not risk management at all. It's not at all risk management. It's a strategy that you use to smooth out the purchase price. And by the way, it's a great invention by the brokerage houses in Wall Street to make sure your money flows into those 401ks regularly. Great idea. But all it does is smooth out pricing. It will not protect you. Market timing. Oh my word, that is not the answer, folks. People who try to do this, did you know that the average investor in a 401k who does not have help earns about 3% less on average annual returns compared to those with help? And why? That's because the very base level that an advisor can do for you is keep you from jumping in and out of investments and trying to time the market. That will cost you. I've seen it over and over again because you have to be right every time or a majority of the time. And guess what? Most people can't do that. Asset allocation, we've been taught that is the great panacea. If you've got some money in the stock market, you got some money in the bond market. Folks, bonds are not a safety net. You say, well, sure they are, Colin. My advisor tells me they're low risk. No, they're not. If you were in the broad bond market, that's debt, right? That's companies issuing debt and you participating at an interest rate just like you if you were a bank. The broad market in 2022, just a couple of years ago, lost 25% in bonds simultaneously with stocks. So everybody got completely destroyed just like 2008, 2009. We could have predicted it. Right? We already did that, and then we did it again. And guess what, folks? It's going to happen again. Asset allocation. Oh, if you're 60% stocks, 40% bonds, you're good. You're good. Guess what? A 60-40 portfolio lost 40 to 50% of its value in 2008, 2009, 25% in 2022. Warren Buffett has a great expression that he uses when talking to people about risk. He says this: only when the tide goes out do you discover who's swimming naked. That's not a visual I want you to keep in your head, but I want you to keep the principle, okay? Right? There are people out there and everybody looks great, right? The difference between a house that can withstand an earthquake and a house that can't is undiscernible until the earthquake. So here's what we're going to do at Lord & Richards. We're going to take your portfolio and shake it up like an earthquake. We're going to take it back through time and show you, if we repeat history, this is what will happen, this is what will happen, this is what will happen. And the majority of folks I talk to are shocked that whether they did it themselves or their advisor did it, that their portfolios are extremely vulnerable. They look good, right? I've got Microsoft, I got Apple, I got whatever, I'm doing great, but they're not prepared for a downward slide. And here's the issue. If you're 25, go for it, man. Just go for it. You got time. I really wouldn't burn time if I were in my 20s. Knowing what I do now, I would be doing the exact same thing I'm doing now in my 50s when I'm in my 20s. But here's the thing. When you're getting ready to or in retirement and you need to withdraw money, that is danger, Will Robinson. If you remember Lost in Space, I don't want you lost in retirement, okay? I want you to have a written risk management strategy. And I'm going to get into the particulars in our next segment. But in the meantime, we would love to have a conversation about how you can put a plan in place right now, to head things off at the pass and make sure you're prepared for the next market downturn. Let's have a great conversation. It simply starts with a phone call.